Hey, happy Wednesday, all. As always, let me know if voice is working properly.
See and sound great.
Awesome. So, hey, like I said, happy Wednesday. Pre-Thanksgiving for those of you in the U.S. and in other places who celebrate it. We're going on break in a few hours. We'll be off Thursday and Friday and returning to work on Monday. Because of that, our top 10-ish is, gosh, it's almost 10 for the first time in a long time. It's 11 items. It's certainly a little lighter than we usually would have, but again, shorter week and all that. Yeah, that's it on all the really great, exciting news. Again, pre-Thanksgiving. We've been testing quite successfully in the pre-Saturday night sieges, running around, lots of people getting killed by Tim and by Matt. AJ turns out to be the, who knew the youngest guy might actually be better at games than, us, in my case, old guys.
Less young guys.
Less young guys. No, I'll take old guys. Hey, call it like I see it. Tim is sitting in, so for Max today. Max had to leave a little early, so
expect technical difficulties.
Or expect wise-ass comments, because he's good at both. So this should be a fun stream. But yeah, it's so nice to be feeling like a game again. And no one likes to be killed, okay? I don't like to be killed. I know it's part of the game, but the best part of being killed right now is being killed, okay? Being killed in a game just like we used to be, before the, hell on earth that rehabilitation has been. So it's great. I am so happy. I'm constantly filming stuff. We'll be hoping to have a new video out before we went on break, but we won't. So I'll film an even better video for the next time. We're talking about we still going to have, hopefully have a test this weekend?
Yeah,
short test?
We've got to figure out who's pulling the trigger on it, but yeah.
So yeah, for our IT guys, you'll be able to jump in and play in the first death matches. So some of you have jumped in during the week. Now we'll have it open for a few hours, certainly 1 if not 2 days on the weekend, but certainly at least 1 day. Then depending on how well things go next week, we'll also try to do it the next week, next weekend, and then after that, hopefully we'll be able to get your alpha guys in, or maybe we'll let your alpha guys in for an impromptu. We'll just have to see how it continues to go. But so far, we feel better now than we did in the pre-alphas. And for those of you who were in our pre-alphas, that was a lot of fun. Well, getting on the siege engines and getting to kill people is fun, which we didn't have for the pre-alphas. Running around the fort, which wasn't quite as good as the one we have now, is also feeling good. The abilities that we have, well, they're not as much fun as the fireballs we had, but we're getting there. The archer's abilities are coming along nicely. Healing is working. Melee is working. So lots of good progress.
Everybody complaining that everything's overpowered.
Yeah, the cries for nerfing, they just never stop. Even Sacrix has been getting in. I don't know if Sacrix, I assume you're on the stream, but Sacrix has certainly been getting in and yelling and screaming at times during, the battles. So that's been fun. So yeah, let's get to the top 10, and we'll talk a little more after that, and then do some Q&A. So number 1, and by the way, I just read this once very quickly. I've been swamped today getting ready for not this, but for all the other things that I have to do before we go on break, including a whole bunch of candidate interviews. So, hey, good news there. And more coming. So, yeah, number one, scenario management updates. So one of the things that we want to have, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, were the auto-starting scenarios. They're not in yet. We are working on getting them ready for you folks, which will certainly make our life easier. Next, NPC updates. So this is just what we're doing with NPCs to make them more useful during tests. Right now, they will happily kill you. They'll chase you down. They'll shoot you. It's all lovely. So we want even more of them in, because for the scenarios where we don't have as many players, the NPCs can fill right in. Next, database upgrades. So this has been something that has been an ongoing process for the last few weeks. We have been testing with IT, and updating our databases is always a problem. It's a problem for any game developer, but so far, so good. And it's really important because, after all, if the database goes down or we screw something up, the store goes down, other things go down. So we've had to be careful with that.
One of our big slow operations is 3 times faster.
Oh, and one of our slow operations is 3 times faster. Now, Tim, how slow was it? I had to say it.
Well, do you want me to talk
numbers?
Yeah,
go ahead.
So right now we have to, if we do a major item overhaul, we do an item reset. Before, it took about 20 seconds per 100 characters, and that's with about 600 items per character. Now it takes about 6 seconds.
So that's a lot better, because when you think about how many characters we already have in the game and how many more we'll have, it's going to be a big deal. More performance updates. So, during the scenario testing, we've seen a couple spikes here and there. We're trying to track down these spikes. This is an ongoing process. Some of you folks have seen the much larger tests where there were no spikes. And what happens is we add new code. We add new features. In this case, we've been adding more progression info, more logging info. And every so often, something goes wrong. We're trying to track down what recently went wrong when the numbers of players got high. So we'll figure that out, but it's just ongoing. Particle fixes, number 5. So, why do we run these tests? To look for bugs. And one of the bugs we found in the last test, or in the last couple tests, have been issues with the VFX. For example, the particles following you as you move. So that's been fixed, and a bunch of other 3 to 4 other items has been fixed as well. Number 6, ability system improvements. So, this is a small change, but it gives us a different, the ability to play a different sound when an ability is interrupted. So DB now has more freedom to make even more sounds, but even better at being geared to exactly what's happening during a battle. So if you get hit and the ability is interrupted, or your sword's knocked out of your hand, or something else like that, we'll have a sound effect that goes with it. Number 7, permission upgrades. So this is just all the stuff we're doing for plot control. And this is another upgrade by Christina of our current system. Number 8, female NPC clothing. So this week, John finished off his work on the high and low modeling paths of all 3 female clothing variants for our NPCs. Number 9, animation. So Scott and Brad have been working this past week in investigating what are called body region overrides in our animations. So again, as we've said a lot of times about our animation system, this is not your typical animation system from, your typical game where, you've got these long, or relatively long animations that play that are anim-locked. No. We have to be able to do different things and have the character react in different ways depending on what weapon you're using, what ability you're using, and what just happened to you. So this is an ongoing process. it's all already giving you guys a better looking animation system than we had a year ago, and it's just going to continue to get better over time. Number 10, Ability Vfx. So, during our playtests, we've been working on the most, obviously noticeable issues first. So now we've been working on the VFX tags, so they're a little less error prone right from the beginning. So it just makes it easier for Mike and for Ben or anyone else who is going to be working on that to do their job. So last and not least, updated emote animations. So Sandra completed an update on the yes, no, and point emotes, which needed some love, and so that is now in the game and working. Like I said, folks, a short week, but we did get a whole bunch of things done, and by far the most important was that we continue to make great progress on the Saturday night sieges. As anyone from IT who's now in chat for either YouTube or Twitch can say, can talk to, yeah, they've been in it, it works, it's playable, it's not crashing, the VFX are firing off, siege engines are, are firing, albeit you can't move them while aiming yet, but we'll have that coming up. I think that's on the schedule for next week or the week after. So that'll be in there. Yeah, it's just all good. It's certainly been and continues to be a lot of work, but progress is nice and steady now. And like I said, we had, oh boy, I'm going to sneeze.
Tuck and roll.
I almost never do this on camera. Lock boxes. Oh, wait, huh? Sorry. And, we have a whole lot of new candidates that I've been interviewing and will continue to interview across multiple disciplines as we look to grow the team even more. So, yeah, that's it on all the big stuff for today. Let's go to a Q&A and, start asking.
So throw us some questions, guys. Okay. Have you begun tying the, Abducted Gaming asks, have you begun tying the character stats into the game mechanics? If not, what aspects of the game need to be in place before you can really work on character stats?
That's a Ben question. I think we've started to. Do you know the answer?
I know some of them. I don't know if all of them are, but certainly, I think vitality affects your life, stamina or endurance works. Agility affects your move speed. I don't know all of them though.
Yeah, I think a bunch are in and more are going in.
So, Odelvic asks on behalf of Rhaegar, what are the trade-offs / costs to make the game fun ahead of the original schedule? Don't get me wrong, I think this is the right decision. I'm just wondering what the consequences are.
No consequences, because frankly, if it isn't fun in the sieges, it's not going to be fun in the real game. So, and I actually touch on this a little in the dose of design for this month, since I'm writing it. Man, by the way, I thought we were getting it out today, so I wrote it in a half hour, and then I realized when they said, hey, you don't need it today, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not the end of the month. But the important thing is that it is fun for the sieges, because whatever mechanics we use here, whether it's the time to kill, whether it's the siege weapons, whether it's destructibility of buildings. Sure, we can speed them up and we can slow them down a little bit for the live game, but if it isn't fun now, like hell, it ain't going to be fun when we launch the game. So, many of us have been part of multiple MMOs, either from the development, both from the development side and from the player side. And the fun doesn't come when you suddenly turn the keys and wipe the databases for the live game. If the fun hasn't happened during beta, it ain't going to be fun when you go live. And we've also seen the opposite where, you know, games were fun in beta and then the developers did things, stupid things, to the game just before launch. And we don't want to do that either. I'm glad you think it's the right decision, because it is. It was the 100% right call. And as I say in the article, you know, this week or next week, I'd rather find the issues now. And so, yeah, that's why we're doing it.
And to answer your question, Fanglo, Mark is mostly fielding design questions, but I'm behind the camera and can answer some interesting programming questions. But mostly ask design questions for Mark. Will the buffer zones between plots have harvestable resource areas / nodes, or will they remain pristine?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked that. That's really good. Who asked that one?
Odilvik.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, great question.
Odilvik asked it on behalf of Nanolock.
Oh, okay. Yes, we want them to have things in them. Some will be not have things in them, but others may have things in them.
Swazi asks if there's any timeline to getting cube buildings into the SNSs.
Yes, that's actually something that you know, Rob has been working on and will continue to work on. We really need to do that because obviously we can't build out the safe islands, or we can't build out the next stage of the Saturday Night Sieges, which is still part of the beta 1 stage. Don't worry about that. Without being able to take cube buildings and putting them into the game.
Zumos asks, what UI elements such as cast bars or scrolling combat text above characters is planned for the start of Beta 1?
We hope to have the first pass at the system that is a release candidate for live game. Now, what does that mean? It's shot number 1 at having a good UI and good feedback to players. We've had multiple conversations in the office about how to do things. I'm on the, hey, we need lots of information being given out the player's side, because I've said that right from the beginning to you folks. So whether it's scrolling text, whether it's scrolling text and combat text, whether it's scrolling text, combat text, and some other kind of text, or it's some other way to convey the information to you folks about what is happening, there'll be plenty of that for the opening of Beta 1, because otherwise there's no point. You know, we've said absolutely right from the beginning that we have to be able to give you guys the information you need to help us debug the game. We have to have that as well ourselves. And so if we don't have that kind of information, if we can't give you the kind of visual feedback and textual feedback that you need to help us, there's no point in going to Beta 1 other than to say, hey, we're in Beta 1. But that alone would be stupid. And, you know, we may be late, and occasionally we make stupid mistakes because we're human, but overall, nobody here is stupid. And so, yeah, we'll have something good.
Well, and that's been great about having a game back again, right, as we're starting to get back into that mattering.
Yep.
Odilvik asks on behalf of Sketchit, on the game's first day of being live, how long will it take the players to reach an enemy player and start fighting?
Oh, we haven't even begun to figure that out. Now, that's the easy short answer. The longer answer is, day 1, we expect a lot of people to be more worrying about, okay, let's actually explore these areas, because not everything you necessarily see in beta will be there for live, and not everything necessarily you've seen. No, I was about to say the opposite. I've been talking all day. Expect us to have some surprises. I shouldn't try to be fancy at this point. I've been talking since I got here. Just got off an hour interview
Mark's
right
just
before.
been chaining meetings back to back all day.
It's been crazy. Yeah, this has been my busiest interview day in quite a while. So, and I interview for candidates, not, hey, I'm ready for my close-up. So, yeah, there'll be some surprises when we go live. There have to be. Will you be able to fight somebody day 1? Yeah, we certainly hope so.
Brand asks if we've decided if the magic mortar is making an appearance at the start of Beta 1.
We haven't yet. I mean, I still think there's a chance it will. We're going to hope. Hopefully, we will have something better than the magic mortar. for the start of Beta 1. But as a fallback, I have no problem with the Magic Mortar.
What type of desserts is being made by Lady J for the short break?
Well, my son's home, so she made him cinnamon rolls, homemade cinnamon rolls, which just looked ridiculous this morning. And another low-carb cheesecake for me. And I don't know what else she's making. Oh, she's making something that's called apple dapple something cake. You know, when we go over to, been invited to a friend's house for Thanksgiving, and unfortunately, since one of their children was in a horrific accident, you know, we absolutely wanted to accept this year so we could see him. Just terrible. So, but we're all very grateful that he survived, because frankly, he shouldn't have. It's one of those things, and so yeah, we'll be going there.
From Daralgon, in the Dose of Design, Ben talks about a high-level vision document describing the general direction game development will go. Is he talking about the Beta 1 document?
I would assume so. I actually didn't ask him when I saw that. I assume that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, Abducted said we already answered his. From Rylos, what are the requirements to make a guild in CU?
Final requirements haven't been discussed, so don't have you know, a great answer. Just the certainly for beta, we want to make it as easy as possible for guys to start a guild.
From Mark Rocks, are we likely to see the ability to switch skills around in a more refined manner anytime soon in IT? For example, hiding a crashing weapon if I switch to slashing weapons.
That is not planned, as far as I know, an auto-switching of the skill bar.
Yeah, I know there's some talk about some ability bar improvements, but I don't know the scope of those.
No, I don't think that's a great idea for us, but not probably before Beta 1.
Yeah, it's definitely a long-term plan.
Oh my
with, like,
God!
the
Oh no,
docs and
no,
all
no,
that
no,
stuff,
no,
right?
no,
But,
of course. I'm just thinking for Beta 1.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to see what you know, our time looks like.
Yeah. Rec is curious how much attention the island geography gets in terms of map design. Are they left relatively open? Is there a lot of time and attention being put into them to create geographical layouts which affect gameplay in intentionally designed ways?
Yeah, that's great. So, obviously, difference between the opening of Beta 1 and then the different levels of Beta and then Live. For the opening of Beta 1, the safe islands are just going to be designed as much as possible for openness, mainly because, you know, they're for building islands. For building buildings on the islands. On the other hand, for the Saturday Night Sieges and the contested islands, yeah, there's more effort going to be spent by Ben on laying them out properly for, you know, whether it's a scenario or the more open world events.
From Nanolox, since First Pass on NPC guards is on the Beta 1 feature list in user stories, will the backers get a chance to test the NPC guard AI in combat before Beta 1 starts?
Well, I think I said this last week, that guards are one of those things that I'll happily sacrifice in order to get into Beta 1. But as you guys can already see from the IT tests, our NPCs are slowly getting smarter and getting to do more. So, you know, we'll see. If we're able to get them in, of course you'll be able to test it, you know, during, frankly, the run-up to the Saturday Night Sieges. Because what's a guard, after all, other than an NPC that walks around and then detects somebody within a range and then tries to kill them? We have some of that already.
Rec asks, will you consider changing mechanics if they are harmful to the spirit of RVR? Looking at you locking allies out of structures in a contested zone.
Sure. I mean, look, RVR is the key. There is nothing more important for this game than having great RVR. That's what we sold the Kickstarter on. So, yeah, anything bad goes.
Odilvik wants to know if you can tell us what positions we're filling.
No. I can't. I'm sorry. We'll announce, you know, and you guys have heard me say this before, when we're looking for somebody officially, it's on the website and you can guess. On the other hand, sometimes opportunities occur and other times we want to keep things, quiet for reasons. And we never announce anyone, almost never announce anyone, right when they're hired, simply because of the name who will never be mentioned when I did that, and will never do it again, thanks to the name that will never be mentioned again.
Kuong asks, can a non-crafter be able to craft certain necessary items like life potions so they do not totally depend on a crafter if none is to be found?
Maybe. It depends on the items, right? If you can't do anything with your character because you can't find a crafter, that's dumb. Okay, we've screwed up. So there will be ways to do things. There needs to be ways to do things without crafters. Now, could you do everything without a crafter? No, because that doesn't make any sense. So there has to be a balance. And one of the things that we've always talked about, which is if there is not enough crafters, then the game has to start filling that role. Then we have to start having NPC crafters or putting items in stores for people to buy. So one way or the other, you have to be able to play your character, when you want it. There's no guarantee that there'll be other people in the game at that time to do it, but you should always be able to get stuff, important stuff for your character. Otherwise, you just get frustrated and quit.
Right, and we had talked internally, like archery and fletching, right? Like, you can make some arrows so that you can put a pointy stick in a guy's face, but you're not going to be able to make the best arrows.
Correct. And if there are not enough crafters, and then then the realm will start filling the stores up with arrows, all sorts of arrows. So yeah, that's something that fortunately is relatively easy to do, and that we will be doing, certainly well before live.
We're talking about Sacrix yelling like a girl in IT testing. Are there any, Wolf Power asks if there's any plans to counter realm population imbalance for when the game comes out.
Sure, of course. That's kind of important. We've done that. I certainly have done that in other games, and we're going to continue to do some of the things we did in other games that worked, and then come up with some other, which we already have, interesting ideas for how to make it work even better.
Will archers be able to illuminate an area by firing a flaming arrow into the ground tree, which burns for a few minutes?
Whether it's a flaming arrow that, makes a tree burn, or a flare, or other things to illuminate, absolutely. Said that from the beginning, want that in the game. It's just friggin' cool. And it's also kind of necessary for RVR. If you're going to have day-night, but not give people an ability to do things at night, well, once again, that's stupid. So, yes, absolutely.
Will paved roads increase run speed?
Yes.
Rec asks, can you see any value in a mentoring system in CU, having knowledgeable and helpful players with special ways to help new players?
Yeah, I've always liked those kind of systems. These sorts of things go back to the muds. Can we do a good one? I would like to say we can, but it's one of those items that since I haven't promised it yet, and we're late, we ain't promising anything. Unless you give us extra money through lockboxes.
We're running out of questions. I'm going to go back and see if there's any I missed, but you guys keep them coming. Will we be able to build non-solid blocks in cube like water or lava for modes or traps?
Whether you do it through blocks or you do it another way, yeah, we've already said there have to be modes. Are you picking up the YouTube chapter too?
Yeah.
Cool. So yes.
Where do you stand with the ability crafting system? If it doesn't work out, would you consider a normal default system with 20 to 40 abilities and more defined class-specific abilities?
I wouldn't consider it. I'd just do it. I mean, we've said right from the beginning, there is no feature in this game, nothing other than RVR, frankly, that I'm not willing to rip out if it doesn't work. The ability crafting system is great. It's powerful. It's cool as hell. But if it's no fun, and if it doesn't work, and there's no way of making it work, we'll just yank it out. I mean, the beauty of that, and it's hard to underestimate the power and the freedom that the system we've been building gives us. But because we still have this component-based system, if we then decide to build set abilities on that, we can do, oh wait, we've already done that. So yes, thank you for setting me up with a lovely answer. We already do that. So the next time you're in an IT test or an alpha test, guess what you're going to have when you go in there? Pre-made characters with pre-made abilities. So when I say, hey, we can just rip it out and put in abilities because our system allows us to do that, this is not, oh, this is another thing of vaporware, or this is going to take forever. We did it 2 weeks ago when Ben started creating pre-made characters with pre-made abilities. So yeah, man, if this doesn't work, if it is just too complicated and we can't simplify it and still make it fun, pre-made abilities is a way to go.
Yeah, and from the tech side, the ability system in terms of how we handle skills and stuff like that on the server is different from the skill crafting system. So we can pull the skill crafting system out and all of rehabilitation is still completely viable.
Yeah, we haven't, the beauty of the system we built, and we talked about this when, you know, the system was being envisioned, was the ability to do just what you asked. Is to say, hey, ability crafting was just too complicated, you know, can we still use the same system? Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. You know, it was designed this way. So it would be easy, mainly because we've already done it. And I like to be able to say that. So again, thank you so much for that question.
We've got a couple old school Dark Age and Warhammer players just asking, you know, is RVR going to be as important as it was in Dark Age, and how similar will ORVR be to the gameplay?
Sure. No, it won't be as important in Dark Age. It's going to be more important because this game is all about RVR. Dark Age, greatest RVR game ever made. That's all there is to it. It overall, especially considering the time that we did it and the size of the team and everything else, it's an amazing game that was done by an amazing team. But this game is all about the RVR. That game did have PvE leveling. So, yeah, RVR is more important here. In terms of the setup, well, we've said from the beginning, it's open world, baby. You know, you're going to be going from one area to another, and it's all open, it's all there for you. No battlegrounds, except for, you know, new players. So, yeah, have fun storming the castle wherever you want to go.
Rec asks, at what point can we hope to get some information on how class ability specializations work, i.e. info on possible ways to specialize and details on how wide, shallow, narrow, etc.?
So I don't know if we're going to get to this before the end of the year, but hopefully we will. I would like to have Ben do a presentation on all the work he's done on classes for the game, but we'll see where we're at.
Rix asks, MJ, as you recently stated that Games Workshop was happy with War, would CSE be interested in making an Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k based MMO if asked by Games Workshop?
I love the guys at Games Workshop. You know, my relationship with them is still great. They were fabulous to work with. I love their IP. You know, I love Nottingham. I had a great time in Nottingham. While a lot of the guys are gone who I worked with, I still know some folks there. So certainly if, you know, the opportunity presented itself, I certainly would jump right back into their IP. You know, of all the, I worked with some pretty good licensors. I was fortunate enough to work with Dean Devlin from Centropolis at the time. Dean was and is a great guy, nothing but, you know, mad respect for him. and Games Workshop was right there. You know, they were also a great bunch of guys, you know, to work with. So yeah, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Notlock wants to make sure that alphas are going to get in before you nerf archers.
Well done, sir. Yes, yeah, alphas. We want to get the alphas in pretty soon. Right now, for us, it's just a matter of we want to get it through IT testing, be able to up the number of people in a scenario, and then we want your alphas to start jumping in for the fun and frolic. That we hope will happen before the end of the year.
Can the abilities we design generate a short text build code that we can quickly input and have the selections populate based on the code? I'm assuming he's talking about like sharing builds.
I would assume so.
Codes.
Yeah, that's certainly something to be discussed. There's nothing, you know.
Sacrix wants you to know that he asked the question about the ability system changing from ability crafting to 20 to 40 pre-made skills.
That was Sacrix?
Yeah.
Dude! Thank you! Oh my god, I don't think...
He's losing his mind because I didn't tell you.
Yeah, Sacrix. So first of all, forgive Tim. You know, he's
I've missed half the people's names. You're not special, dude.
Yeah, he's a clueless noob, you know, when it comes to this. But Sacrix, oh my god, this is like the first time in, I think, all of the questions you've asked where I just love it. I mean, sometimes you ask really good questions anyway, but no, this was the grand slam home run of your questions. Thank you so, seriously, I'm not being sarcastic here. Thank you so much for it. It was a great question that allowed me, in the best, if a slightly verbose way as possible, of describing in extraordinary truth and detail why our component system and the rehabilitation was so worth it. There's, you know, look at any other game that could do that. There aren't many, maybe one. So,
let's see here. Sacrix asks, what is happening with the path system for progression after it was changed or not changed?
I have no idea. What am I missing? Am I missing something?
We talked about original class designs was path-based, right?
Right.
And then we sort of rejiggered that a little bit.
Yeah, but that's nothing new.
Right.
This is, no, nothing has changed, you know, in the longest time.
Did that affect progression at all?
At this point, the progression we're using for Beta 1 is just to get, you know, the bones of the progression system tested and working. It's not the final progression system.
Tranquilizer asks, will the studio maneuver the beta progression dates or final release based around other major titles, or will we just release when it's ready?
We're going to release when it's ready at this point. The last thing we want to do is, you know, say, hey, we're going to delay if some other game comes out. No, you guys and gals have been overall so patient. We're just going to release, you know, when the game is ready to release. I mean, that's the bottom line. Now, on the other hand, if, you know, we were going against another game the same day, might we push it back a week just so we don't launch the same day? Maybe, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for us.
Sacrix asks, will you have visual elements in your game before you remove body parts, or maybe remove body parts? I ask because it's like adding half of system. What exactly do you want from arm attacks when you could just have a normal ability that adds a disarm?
Yeah, and that's the sort of thing we have to look at. I mean, look, and I've said this before, as you know, in my mind, the single most difficult system to make right was the use of body part targeting. And it's the first on my list to be cut out of the design. You know, if I was wrong in that I thought that the system would be a good add for the genre and for us to, you know, as well for RVRs, then we just yank it out. So, you know, it is so up in the air. And will be up in the air until we get into beta and start playing around with it for a bit.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, after we started getting through some of the first internal scenarios, we even talked about that. Okay, I was running around for a while with nothing but a breastplate on because legs and arms didn't matter. And so we get some of that gameplay in, we iterate on it, and we figure out how it feels.
Exactly. And again, if it feels, let me be blunt, if it feels like crap, we're going to take it out. It's just, there are so many, if you look at any game's initial vision, and it doesn't matter whether you want to call it a vision or design, there's stuff in it that whoever wrote the doc thought was a good idea. Now, the smart designers, they look at the feedback they get, and then they're willing to say, yeah, that was dumb. And they just take it out or change it and make it better. That's exactly what we're going to do. I am not, and neither is Ben, so tied to any damn thing in the design, again, other than the whole idea of RVR, that I am unwilling to cut it out, whether it's my idea, his idea, Andrew's idea. You can't have pride of ownership to the point where it prevents you from being good at your job. And I've seen that happen too often. And no, we're not going to do that.
Sacrix re-asked your 2 other questions. I'm a noob at this streaming thing, and they've scrolled past. Christo says, good evening from Athens. In Warhammer Online, there were add-ons that pretty much messed up PvP. Will you allow third-party add-ons in the game, and how close do you think you will be to providing a cheat/exploit-free environment when the game goes live?
Oh, hey, hi from Virginia to Athens. So, to begin with, because there's multiple questions there, are we going to try to prevent add-ons that give you an advantage in the game? The answer is yes. That's a kind of important thing. It is something that we are always going to struggle with, because every time we think we've solved any of the issues, somebody's going to try to be smarter, or somebody's going to find another way to do things. But it's something that's important. Second, cheat-free environment. Now, there are 2 kinds of cheating. Well, there's more than that, but the 2 kinds of cheating that I'll focus on is the kind of cheating that's hacking the client cheating, kind of physics hacks. You can't do that in this game. You just can't. All this stuff is determined by the server, by our modified PhysX. So that kind of cheating, it can't happen unless you hack the server. And it's not that our server is hack-proof, because there's no such thing as truly something that can't be hacked. But assuming that like almost every other MMO, that our server doesn't get hacked, then you don't have to worry about people speeding up their characters, jumping over mountains, things like that. You cannot do that in the way our game is built. Beyond that, and this goes back to Mythic, obviously as well, I have always been focused on trying to stop cheating. We've always made an effort. We always tried to be clever. I am 100% dedicated to it. I always have been. You saw that at Mythic. You saw that in Warhammer, even with the gold sellers. I don't like cheaters. You want to cheat in a single-player game, knock yourselves out. I don't care. Not one bit. Cheating in an RVR game, that's a whole different story. So I think my track record on it speaks volumes. Doesn't mean we're always going to be right. Doesn't mean we can always stop it quickly. But, Mythic, from the moment we detected and learned about people cheating, we tried to solve the problem. We always did. That's something I'm very proud of. We never just threw our hands up and said, yeah, we don't care. We might not have always been able to do it, and certainly the tools that people have and the things they were able to do, pretty clever. But we never stopped. I always tried to, help out where I could and push things where I could. So no difference here, none at all.
And we're also pretty pragmatic about the tools at people's disposal, even when they're not cheating, right? Like, this isn't 10 years ago. People have Twitter and Google Chat and, you know, HipChat and Skype and all these mechanisms to communicate with each other. We understand that those tools exist. We're building JavaScript into our UI so web pages are accessible to our game, and all of it comes with that, and we understand that. So we're just pragmatic about those sorts of things.
Yep.
Sacrix asks, will classes follow the pattern of Vikings being aggressive, TDD being hit and run, and Arthurian being stalwart for Beta 1?
That's a better Ben question. I think that is what he has followed, but that's a good one for Ben.
Gypsy Dancer asks, will there be a way for major defensive structures, we sort of touched on this already, will there be a way for major defensive structures to be realm-owned so that players stop freaking out about locked doors on personal residences and guild houses?
Yeah, I know why she asked that. Yes, of course. Absolutely.
Wolf Power asks, Mark, you've always said that people will be able to play solo. Will solo players get greater rewards since it might be difficult for them to get kills? Or will they absolutely need to roll a crafter first to equip their fighter to be able to compete?
If I have to roll a crafter first to help me compete, then I won't be a happy camper. Not that I don't like crafting, I'm going to be doing it, but the idea that you have to run a crafter first, that's kind of anathema to me. It's not what I believe in. That would, again, run counter to so many of the things that I believe in, frankly, for this game. So will we say that if you're a solo player, you get better benefits? No, we can't do that because, you know, how do you determine if you're a solo player? You just, you know, oh, somebody's just hanging back a little bit and then shows up, or there are other things that they could do. On the other hand, one of the things that is very important is making sure that you do get rewards for being a solo player. And while that seems kind of contradictory, not contradictory, God, all day talking way too much. At odds, there we go, and I'll think of the right word in a moment. At odds with what I just said, it actually isn't. So, example. You are playing as a solo player. You meet somebody, you kill them. Well, that's kind of your job if they're on the other realm. You'll get a benefit for that. Let's say somebody helped you. Are we going to take away from you? No. On the other hand, we won't say because you're a solo player, you also get a benefit from just being a solo player wandering around. Because that is too easy to cheat and way too hard for us to detect. You know, so yes, as a solo player, you're going to get, you know, and be able to, you know, achieve. We don't want to also punish you if somebody comes in and helps you, you know. So that's sort of what I mean. I hope that makes sense. Did it make sense, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tennis wants to know if there's any word on beta doc release this week.
Well, certainly not this week. Like I said, I have been swamped. I mean, Ben not doing a dose of design, we're just crazy, absolutely crazy busy. I am hoping, really hoping, that by the end of next week, my schedule will return to normal, which would be a great thing, and I can get back to actually focusing on design and focusing on getting the doc ready. But look, the bottom line is when you look at what's remaining in the doc, there's some things that we need to talk about, and they're really good things. But I'm waiting for a certain thing before we announce it. So you'll see, it's all going to be good. It'll all be worth waiting for, and it's going to be interesting.
Tranquilizer says, this may have been answered, but I am unaware. Will there be items/rewards as a tribute to backers/founders involved in beta testing, like titles, statues, land features, buildings named after them?
We've said right from the beginning that we want to reward people who help us during beta. It's that simple. Now, will it be anything that gives you an advantage in the game? No. We've been very clear about that. You know, there's not going to be, you know, pay to win whether you call it a loot box or, you know, being able to help during beta, it's the kind of the same thing. I know some people, a lot of people don't have the same time as other people, so giving you a reward that could actually give you an advantage for the live game would be wrong. That just would be wrong. But can you get cosmetics? Can you get titles? Can you get other things from us? You know, discounts in time, for example, you know, for your subscription, other rewards. We've said from the beginning, you know, from the moment we started talking about the Saturday Night Sieges, that rewards are going to come in all shapes and sizes, and we're going to do that. That's the point. So, yes, you will be rewarded for helping out, but no, I can guarantee that none of it would be considered giving you advantage in the live game when it comes to RVR, combat, anything like that. But everything else is on the table, as it should be.
I mean, that was even something you did with Mythic for bug and exploit hunters, right?
Yep. I had to deal with my muds.
Yeah.
You know, go back to AUSI and my first mud Aradath. You know, I had the bug hunt and suggest and win campaigns. So, yeah, gonna do the same thing now. You help us, we thank you. We should. You have no obligation to be in beta. None, zero, zilch. So if you're taking the time to help us, if you're showing up for these tests, we're going to thank you. And for those who can't because of the time zone differences, we've already said we're going to try to accommodate you. We've said we're going to run servers in Europe to make it easier for our European backers to get in and set the times to right. And, well, to have a better performance, we can always let you in on the East Coast servers. So we're going to do that for our backers. And all we ask is if you want to help us, please do. And then if you don't, just allow us to say thank you to those who do help us, as long as the thank you doesn't give them an advantage in meeting you guys, the other guys, on the field of battle.
Following the solo question from Brando2 says, following the solo question along with the talk of soloing in Beta 1, how effective do you expect solo playing to be in the larger scope of the game?
Extremely effective. Look, if you take a good gander at all of our classes that we've announced so far, you can see which ones are geared towards solo play. Solo play is really important. It has to be. You should not build a game like ours without supporting the solo player. Now, does this mean making their lives a lot easier? No, it just means giving them classes that allow them to succeed as solo players. And so, yeah, you're going to be able to be useful right from the beginning. And also, for you soloers out there, what's better than a Saturday Night Siege where you can just run around, you don't even have to talk to anybody, your targets are right there, you can get involved, you can kill, you can defend, and you don't actually have to even talk to anyone else or work with them. Yes, you're surrounded by a bunch of people, but being a solo player doesn't mean you never get involved in any fights other than one-on-ones or one-on-twos. So I think the soloers, which tends to be me as well, will have fun in our SNSs. I'm already having fun.
Well, and there's also, given the scope of the game we're building, there's going to be this plethora of targets both to attack and defend.
Exactly.
And, one solo guy hitting, a keep while the rest of the Zerg hits something else, he either goes undefended or filters resources off of that or whatever. And similarly on defense, the difference between nobody defending your keep and one guy defending your keep is immense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Zumo, well, let me get Sacrix's question before he loses his shit again. Will a Mjolnir be most proficient in one-handed hammer and lightning, regardless of having many weapons which come live might be useless and his progression restricted to hammers, regardless of being able to use multiple weapons? And he asked a similar question earlier of like, Mjolnir has access to this wide range of weapons, but he's sort of billed as hammers and lightning. Will a Mjolnir not using hammers and lightning be effective?
Yeah, they need to be effective, but not necessarily as effective. If you're not effective, then there's no point in using it. Will there be a difference? Yes, there should be a difference. but it doesn't have to make you useless. It shouldn't make you even close to useless.
Danny asks, can we expect surveys during testing?
Yep. Oh my God, that's a that's another reason for the SNSs. Okay, so by the way, it's 5:30.
Okay,
it's time. Yeah, so look for the last question,
Right.
please. Yeah, one of the best things about SNSs is that we can actually do surveys that matter, right? If you're doing a survey based on a test session and it was open world, and you spent a whole bunch of your time trying to find things and you couldn't find things, or just things did not go well, surveys can be kind of useless. On the other hand, when you have this kind of focused testing as we are, look, you're all in the same position. You all started where you're supposed to start. You're all in the same scenarios. It's the best time to do surveys. Absolutely the best time, and we're going to do them. And we're going to pay attention to them. We may not agree, and this is something for you guys who've played all the way back to my muds. We will always hear what you say. We may not listen. We may not say that you're right, but we have to hear what you say. And one of the very good ways to do that is surveys.
Okay, we'll get Zumos in here because he's salty, and then we'll wrap it up with brands because it's a good question on the theme that we've been going down. Zumos asks, before the lifetime subscription option is removed, will the sub price be determined and published?
Yes, because that's the fair thing to do. Otherwise, you're making a decision. You might make the wrong decision for the wrong reason. And at that point, if we turn off refunds, as we've said we will when we're in beta, at least refunds that are not based on additional delays, then we would be unfair. That would be wrong, because we've said, hey, buy this thing, but we're not going to tell you that we were secretly going to charge $30 a month, and boy, that lifetime sub was looking good. So yeah, we're going to obviously talk. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. We are going to talk about it.
Okay, in the theme of all the solo questions we've been fielding, Brando2 says, is there any worry that the solo play may promote the 1v1 fight ideas, taking away from group mechanics that seem to be prevailing in many class synergies, as well as the promotion of large-scale combat that CU has?
No, not at all. If you look at, obviously, the history of Dark Age, which for a bunch of reasons is a better example than Warhammer, you were able to play Dark Age solo, absolutely, but yet we still had great RVR, so I am not at all worried about that. The key is, and I've said this before to the solo players, is just being solo doesn't mean you're OP. You can't expect to be one-shotting people, and gosh, we've been saying that right from the beginning. So as a solo player, you're still going to have to play the game, and you won't just be able to, I don't know, go into stealth and pop out and shoot somebody and either one-shot them or then go right back into stealth, and then when they're looking for you, pop back out and shoot them again. So, you won't be able to do that, but you'll be able to have a perfectly good and hopefully successful, experience as a solo player. And like I said, I'm a solo player. I mean, I've never been a good grouper. I much prefer being the lone wolf. So yeah, there's zero chance of us not being able to support solo play. And we also know, as a lot of us have played on a whole bunch of games, that the importance of group play and the large-scale RVR is so important to this game. Plus, if you just want to look at it from a very analytical perspective, if it was just solo play and there was no large-scale RVR, this game would get boring, people would leave, or then go, well, you know what, solo's not fulfilling, so we might as well try the group play, which would bring the group play back. So,
and inversely, if everything's zerging, then it's similarly unfun because it's just whoever has the biggest ball wins.
Yep, and it's not like there haven't been games where that's been a problem. So, yeah, I think certainly we're going down the right path. We're supporting group play. We're supporting, solo play. We've talked about how we have things to combat the Zerg, but not totally eliminating the Zerg. because that's also not the right thing to do. Because if you want to have large-scale combat, you kind of need a lot of people for that. The difference is what we won't have, or we'll do everything we can not to have it, is the large-scale, well, this Zerg is going that way, that Zerg is going that way, and never the Zerg shall meet, because that's just pointless. Well, you could actually get points doing it in other games, but it's just not a lot of fun, and so we're not going to be doing it.
That was a pretty good one. You want to wrap us up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Emails, newsletters, updates going out this week, any testing happening?
Yep. So, look, we are ending the week on a happy note. I'm sure I'm going to get an update out tonight. We're hopefully going to have the testing this weekend, so you folks, IT folks, should enjoy it. As always, we thank you so much for your patience and support. I cannot stress enough, I really can't, that good things are coming, and not coming soonish, coming soon, very soon, and even more coming after that. We've been very busy. You folks who have seen me miss streams and haven't seen me on the forums as much, or even on MOP as much, I've been busy, and so we'll have a lot to talk about over the coming months, and none of it is bad. All good stuff, and I have zero doubt, that your guys' patience won't be rewarded with what you see coming from CSE, not only the remainder of this year, but next year as well. So again, as always, thank you. For those who celebrate Thanksgiving, we hope you enjoy it. I know I will enjoy it. For those who don't celebrate Thanksgiving, no turkey for you. Sorry. Turkey is delicious, especially with gravy. And look, we'll see you all next week for an update. I have no plans on not being here next Friday, so hopefully I will see you all next Friday. And for those of you in IT, look for an email from us letting you know about testing over the weekend, and hopefully I'll see you, in a scenario. So have a good evening, since or late afternoon in some places, and enjoy your Turkey Day. Enjoy your weekend as well. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.